So good day everyone, and welcome to our Sunday morning sitting. And as we begin this sitting, I would like to evoke, I believe it's an important principle, not only of Buddhist meditation that we teach here, but also of the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha that, certainly I think have been an important part of my practice life. And that is the principle of simplicity. That even though sometimes the Dharma, the teachings might seem complicated, if that's the case, the hope we have is that their purpose is to point to simplicity. Perhaps sometimes we're complicated because people are complicated. And so to explain, to point back to a simple way of being, a simplicity of being, a simplicity of freedom, that sometimes we meet the complexity with complexity. But to keep in the back of the mind, where is it pointing to that is simple? The simplicity of non-clinging, the simplicity of just being with the experience, with clear vision, with clear seeing. It's kind of like turning our gaze upon whatever is happening and having that gaze be easeful, relaxed, at peace with what we see. The gaze itself. Our wisdom might see the complexity of the situation. Our wisdom might tell us what should or shouldn't be done. But not to confuse or entangle wisdom with the gaze. Wisdom with clear seeing. And to have this foundation of simplicity, a simple presence within which wisdom can operate. So to assume a posture that is appropriate for you in allowing your body some ease, some simplicity of being. Hopefully where there's not much struggle physically to be present. A posture that allows the body to be still for this duration. And if there is no such posture, then it's fine to do this meditation as a form of a walking meditation, back and forth. And then giving some care to settling into this posture. Maybe moving the body a little bit, rotating, swaying back and forth, maybe even lifting the shoulders up as high as you're comfortable, and then letting them relax and settle. And then gently closing the eyes and feeling the foundation under you, the solidity, the hardness, the firmness that supports the weight of your body. Such a simple everyday phenomena that we live with, we navigate through, and which in meditation we rely on to help us settle in, the pull of gravity, the weight of our body, is something we yield ourselves to in the place where the body makes contact with that support. Feeling feeling grounded there, rooted. And then further up, maybe, to soften the belly, relax your belly. Sometimes when you soften, relax the belly, let it hang forward and down, there's a little bit more of a foundation, a base, a groundedness in the lower torso. And then softening in the chest, softening around the heart. As you exhale, relaxing the shoulders, softening the shoulders. Releasing the shoulders to the pull of gravity. And then also as you exhale, to soften the muscles of your face, the jaws, maybe by having the mouth just open a teeny bit more than it is. Maybe the lips are still touching, but the teeth a little bit fall away from each other. Relaxing the cheeks and the muscles around the eyes. Letting the eyeballs rest in their sockets. And then softening, relaxing around the forehead, the temples. And even if it doesn't relax easily, maybe on the exhale, there can be some softening around that area. Even if it's just a softening of the way we hold it, that we're aware of it. And then behind the forehead, between the ears, the area of the brain, feeling whatever sensations there might be there of energy, agitation, pressure, contraction, hardness. And if there's any of those things, then on the exhale, softening the brain, relaxing that energy. And as you do so, quieting the thinking mind. And notice whatever is simple about being here with a modicum of silence, where there's nothing to figure out or attain or do, but to rest with some ease in the simplicity of this moment. And then within the simplicity of the moment, to center yourself in the body breathing, with whatever way it's easy for you or right for you, for awareness to be aligned, attuned to the body breathing. And no matter how complicated the mind gets with thoughts and ideas, keep returning to the simplicity of breathing, breathing here. And see how simple you can become. So simple perhaps that desires fall away, aversions fall away, expectations fall away, ideas of what is should be and shouldn't be fall away. Simplicity in which everything is allowed to be just the way it is, and we gaze upon it kindly. We breathe with it, breathe through it, without getting entangled. Just here, sitting, breathing, knowing, being simple with how things are. If you've wandered off in thought, chances are that that's a more complicated world, concerns, than the simplicity of just being here alive, being here breathing, as if that's enough for just these minutes. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, maybe using your imagination a little bit, and imagine what it would be like to maintain a simplicity of being, a kind of radical simplicity with a kind and clear gaze on what's happening. Not needing to understand, not needing to fix, not needing to explain, not needing to defend, but to really just be clearly with what's happening, with someone else. What is it like to sit quietly with someone on a park bench, maybe talking simply and chatting, but offering just a simplicity of being, contentment and ease with being alive, as if for a few moments at least, just to be alive is enough, alive and breathing. And perhaps with that simplicity of being, maybe our goodwill can be simple as well. A simple warmth and goodness, friendliness, that doesn't have to be actively expressed and doesn't have to be explained, but a goodwill and a generosity of spirit, a friendliness and a love, a care, that maybe is part and parcel of that simplicity. And maybe staying simple to end this sitting with tapping into whatever wish you have for others to live well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings everywhere be free. And may it be that we contribute to that. And may it be that our practice contributes to that possibility. So a couple of announcements before I give the talk. The first is that for those of you who are doing the 7 a.m. sitting during the week, for this week, the sittings will start, meditation will start at 6:45 a.m. in California time, so 15 minutes earlier than usual. And partly to give more of you who come a chance to experience sitting longer after all this time of sitting for half an hour. it's also a little bit easier to have maybe take in some of the teachings that we're doing on meditation. We'd sit longer and really settle into them and have a little more silence during the meditation. And we'll do it for 7 days, including Saturday and Sunday, because I'm teaching a retreat, and I'm integrating the morning Zoom teachings with the retreat as well. And the topic of the retreat, and also for the 7 a.m. sittings, are the 7 factors of awakening as a support for meditation practice. And because I'm on retreat, the closing of the retreat next week is the time for this usual Dharma talk on Sunday, teachings on Sunday. So I've invited a wonderful Dharma teacher that I taught with just a few weeks ago, taught a retreat, who's from South Africa, lives there and will teach from South Africa, Nolitha Tsengiwi. And she was really a wonderful, wise and kind, caring teacher that brings a wonderful flavor to the Dharma of our own culture. And so I'm very pleased that she'll be here and for our community. And just like Tweri, who taught last week, Tweri Sala, who had the idea that she wanted some people on Zoom to have a living audience to relate to, Nolitha, I believe, will do the same thing. So probably on the chat or on the IMC calendar at some point there'll be a Zoom link as well. And so some of you might want to be there rather than on the YouTube, and it a little bit supports some speakers because they get to have some sense that there's people participating. So so for this Sunday morning talk, a little bit in the background or the foundation of the talk is the idea that the Dharma practice points to simplicity. It's a very simple thing, and it can be deceptively simple. It can be surprisingly simple. What we're looking for, when we're looking for the freedom from suffering, the alleviation of suffering, and that's at the heart of what the Dharma, the whole religiosity of the Buddha is about. And part of the reason why it's useful to emphasize the simplicity is that many people will come to Buddhism with all kinds of expectations about what a religion is, what they want, that is searching for something that's in a sense outside of themselves. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, and it can be quite wonderful in itself to find a religious life or source that's outside of oneself. But the Dharma of the Buddha is in a sense found within ourselves in this kind of very simple way. And one way that one characteristics of this, or emphasis of this simplicity, is the practice of letting go. Rather than acquiring more ideas, more concepts, building up ourselves and our conceit, there's a real emphasis on letting go, letting go, letting go. But letting go is, people make it more complicated than it needs to be, and sometimes react to it negatively because this means I have to let go of all my possessions or let go of the people I love in my life. In the teachings of the Buddha, the letting go is almost entirely, or maybe entirely, having to do with letting go of particular mental states or mental activity that's within ourselves, not letting go of things of the world. So the primary letting go is letting go of our clinging, letting go of the grasping or the craving that we have, the contractions that come along with some of the desires and aversions we have. And so That's what we're letting go of. And if we turn around and really look at ourselves deeply, we'll feel that the clingings, the cravings we have are a way of self-harm, the way that we're kind of hurting ourselves, causing pain and suffering to ourselves. And in the Buddhist analysis, that's the suffering that we have the most ability to do something about. The suffering that we contribute to through our clinging and our grasping. So that's what we're letting go. Now when we let go, there are things that we abandon. We abandon clinging, craving, grasping. We abandon hatred, aversion, hostility. And we abandon a certain confusion, a tendency towards confusion or delusion. So there are things we let go of. But these, again, all internal things. And so it's not a search for something outside of ourselves, a search for God, a search for some kind of cosmic kind of understanding or wisdom or consciousness. It's not a connection to something beyond ourselves, which is a wonderful thing that can happen. Our sense of interconnectedness to life and all that. But that's not the heart of the Buddhist spirituality, which is maybe seems very simplistic, reductionistic, maybe not enough in the fullness of life. and that may be, but still, over and over again, the Buddha pointed to this simplicity of letting go of greed, hatred, and delusion. And for the Buddha, that's the ultimate. That's like that. To do that thoroughly, fully, is this full message that he's giving. For people who have other ideas of what they want their life to really be about, then I think Buddhism contributes in that it says or offers that whatever your values are, whatever way you want to live and be connected and understand this life that we live in, even if you believe in God or cosmic consciousness, or you have your fundamental religious belief is the interconnectedness of life, all those ideas. What Buddhism has to offer is, please, don't use those ideas as a justification for greed, hate, and delusion. Don't focus on those so much that you lose touch with this deep inner potential to not have greed, hate, and delusion. Let that be the foundation. And then you can do all kinds of other things in a much richer, more meaningful way. But for the Buddha, it was really just this inner life that we're rectifying or freeing. And then the rest of life comes another way. So there's something we abandon. But the letting go is not just about what's abandoned. It's also about what is gained. And this probably is not emphasized enough in teachings of letting go. Letting go is kind of, on the surface can seem like, yes, we let go of something, and then at the best, our hands are open. We're open-hearted or open-minded. We're kind of left without clinging to something. But it's better than that. Letting go of clinging, grasping, craving, letting go of hatred and hostility, aversion, letting go of regrets and agitation, sloth, torpor, doubt. The letting go of all these things, we gain something as a result. And it's kind of like there's a dam that filled with water, and then the gate is opened, and the water begins to flow out, and it flows out and fills the river below, and it just flows and flows and flows, and it's a wonderful thing to have the water flowing and not bottled up by the dam. So the same thing, when we let go, something begins to flow, something begins to move through us that maybe has been held back by the greed, hate, and delusion, by the clinging and grasping. And there's the gain of what happens in that flow when something has been released and let go that was covering over or resisting or blocking something inside. And so there's a number of things that open up when we let go and have cultivated awareness and presence. And one of those things is the 7 factors of awakening. That when we have a deep letting go, it frees up a certain kind of energy, frees up a certain kind of momentum in our life that makes available to us much more mindfulness, a clear distinguishing of phenomena, clear seeing, which we call investigation sometimes in English, effort, joy, tranquility, samadhi, and equanimity. And these are not strange foreign ideas to human beings. It doesn't take that much reflection maybe to see that they accompany us to some degree, maybe in small degrees here and there in our life in ways that we don't really appreciate. And so one of the ways, the examples the Buddha gave for this, and how these 7 factors of awakening can arise, is when is listening to the Buddha, at least, giving a Dharma talk. A great teacher gives a talk, and it's very engaging and compelling to really be present and listen closely. And like what's being said is so important, so clear, so profound, that we're really there to find out what is this that's being said. And there's a fullness of attention that is sati, is mindfulness, really there. That and it isn't that we're self-consciously mindful, but the attention is really present to take in this experience, and maybe even with all our faculties, not just cognitively with the mind, but with our hearts, our body, all our senses. As the ordinary thinking, discursive, conversational mind quiets down, and we're just taking something in with clarity. There might still be some thinking involved, but the thinking is very, very simple and clear. That there's more and more clarity in the eyesight and the perception of things, and we see things much more clearly. I remember I've been to very engaging talks, sometimes academic talks when I was taking botany classes, and I was really absorbed in the details of the botany class, and would leave class and I'd go out into the courtyard in this university where I went, and I'd see everything so clearly. Everything sparkled and was clear and bright, and in a way that they hadn't been when I went in. There's something about cleaning the filters of our eyes, developing a clear seeing that comes with really being present and not distracted by our thoughts. And then listening to a good talk, there's a certain kind of aliveness and energy and alertness. It might even sit up a little bit straighter. Oh, this is interesting. What's going on here? And then there's also maybe some joy. Maybe you wouldn't call it joy at the time, but all the troubles fall away, all the preoccupations of life fall away. We're really right here, and it just feels so good and delightful to be with the experience. And also, there may be, listening to a Dharma talk, very reassuring, a deep sense of reassuring. Oh, this makes sense. This puts things into place. This is the way forward. And something inside of us settles and gets peaceful and quiet. And then there's a gathering together of all the faculties. We're really here in a concentrated way, which means we're really present with all we have, focused on what's being said and what the meaning is. And perhaps also similar to tranquility, it's so reassuring and so clear what's being said that now I understand. There's an equanimity and a balance, and now I understand that there's no value in grasping on or pushing away or leaning forward or pulling back. There's value in just staying balanced and taking in the experience, being present for the experience without the usual reactivity with it. And there's the equanimity. So with letting go, the gate of the dam is opened. It's the water is the 7 factors of awakening, and what's remarkable is that these are can be seen almost as qualities or aspects of awareness itself. As we become more aware in an unobstructed way, it gets filled with these 7 factors of awakening. The opposite of this, according to the Buddha, is the 5 hindrances. Sensual desire, aversion, lethargy and resistance, agitation and regrets, and doubt. And these have the opposite effect. Hindrances, they hinder, they obstruct, they cover over things. And so it's like closing the gates of the dam, and then the water builds up pressure behind the dam. I block something. And as we get, partly because with the hindrances, the focus of the mind is to be preoccupied with something, and to be preoccupied in a contracted and narrow and tight way. And so there's no room for the 7 factors of awakening to flow out into the awareness or be found in a clear form of awareness. So the Buddha talked about letting go of the 5 hindrances. It isn't just letting go of them that's important, but it's also how they create space or open the gate for the 7 factors of awakening to begin opening or appearing or flowing into our presence, into our awareness. And so we're gaining something as well. And so the letting go of greed, hate, and delusion is not just about what we abandon, it's also what we gain. In other teachings, the Buddha points to the 4 divine abodes, the 4 Brahma Viharas, is what starts flowing when the gate has been pulled away from opened in the dam. And there's metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha, the Pali words, usually translated into English as loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And these are beautiful qualities of heart. And they also are limited by our preoccupations. There's no room for love and care and compassion if we're caught up in things like desire, caught up in aversion, doubt, regrets. And so to abandon those, to release those, it isn't just a matter, it isn't that we have to then evoke this loving kindness or compassion. There's something about the heart that has space now to breathe, breathing room for the heart, that tends to then give birth to these beautiful qualities of heart. There's space for them, and if there's space for them, they flow. And so part of practice is to abandon, to let go, so that some of the best parts of our human life can flow and have a chance to be present. And so the simplicity of all this is that this core aspects of the Buddhist teachings is not exactly a religious teaching. It's not exactly my religion versus your religion. It's actually teaching something which, just as I like to think of it, just practical psychology or practical spiritual practice that's available to anybody, regardless of what religion they are. And there's a remarkable teachings from the ancient discourse that points to this that I'd like to read from the Connected Discourses of the Buddha, the Book of Threes, and I think it's Discourse 71, I think. 72. And so here a man comes to Ananda, the Buddha's one of the chief disciples, and asks him this question: whose Dhamma is well expounded? And Dhamma can be a word that's synonymous with religion, And in the ancient world, it means teachings or religious doctrine or something like that. So whose religious doctrine is well expounded? Question one. Question one, who in the world are practicing the right way, the good way? Who are those people who are really practicing the good way and the true way? And then question number three is, who in the world are the fortunate ones? And so the Buddha then Buddha Ananda goes on and says that those who teach the abandoning of greed, hatred, and delusion are the ones. He says this. What do you think is the Dhamma of those who teach the abandoning of greed, hatred, and delusion well expounded or not? Or how do you take it? And the person who was talking to Ananda says, well, the Dhamma of those who teach the abandoning of greed, hate, and delusion is well expounded. In other words, the religious teachings of those who teach the abandoning of greed, hate, and delusion, that's well taught. That's a good teaching. And what do you think? Ananda continues. Are those practicing for the abandoning of lust, hatred, greed, hatred, and delusion, practicing the good way in the world or not? How do you take it? Those practicing for the abandoning of greed, hate, and delusion are practicing the good way. And then are those who are practicing, who are abandoning greed, hate, and delusion and really cut them out, really obliterated them to the end, are they the fortunate ones? And the man says, yes, those are the fortunate ones. So then what he says next is very nice. The householder, the man who's asking questions of Ananda, says, it is astounding, it's amazing, Ananda, that that you have not extolled your own Dhamma, nor any denigration of the Dhamma of others, but just teaching the Dhamma in its own sphere. So the Ananda is not championing the Buddha's Dharma or dismissing the importance of other people's Dhamma, which is often what you get. If someone says, what's the best religious teaching in the world? Some people might say, well, mine is, of course. But rather than saying something like that, Ananda is just offering this principle, this idea about abandoning greed, hate, and delusion. And then rather than making any claim about how wonderful it is, he asks the person asking the question, is this well expounded? Is this the good way? Are these the fortunate people, those who practice it? And the man admits, that's the answer that I was looking for. And so this simplicity of this inner look, and not looking outside, not looking for what's ultimate in kind of religious way, maybe not looking for metaphysical claims of truth, not looking for deep understandings of the nature of the universe, the world, the cosmos, the beginning of time, the end of time. There's many answers that the Buddhism doesn't answer, but rather the heart of it is the simplicity of looking within oneself and freeing oneself of forces which limit us, that block the flow, letting those go, and then letting something beautiful flow that's there, kind of like it's there waiting for us, though it's not really there. It's not like a thing that exists independent of us. It's a thing that exists with opening up, with the freedom, with abandoning, with awareness set free. And so letting go both involves what is abandoned, but also what is gained. And And so we gain. And then, more often than not, what the Buddha talks about is we abandon greed, hatred, and delusion. And then we gain freedom. In some places, he adds a fourth thing that's abandoned. So there's 4 things. And this maybe is helpful, the 4th one, to keep in mind, so that we abandon the greed, hate, and delusion and be sure to keep it really simple. The 4th thing to be abandoned is conceit. Greed, hatred, and delusion, and conceit. And then, if we really let go of conceit as well, then having abandoned greed, hate, and delusion won't give rise to conceit. Look how special I am. I have the most wonderful teachings. I have the most wonderful practice. I have the most wonderful attainment. I'm the most fortunate one. The idea of making an I out of it and building up the self is also abandoned. And this is also a delightful thing that opens the gates for what's wonderful in us to flow out. Conceit is one of those things that closes the gate, blocks the flow, in a sense. So, keeping it simple, appreciating the value of what we can let go of within, that which blocks us and limits us, and appreciating what's gained as we let go, and really feeling into that and experiencing those gains, and maybe in doing so, recognizing the 7 factors of awakening within us. Maybe recognizing them in a very small initial way, but slowly developing, recognizing them more and more, and giving space for them, and letting them really be a support for this life of freedom, a life that is free of clinging. So thank you very much, and may this week be one in which you discover the value, greater value in letting go, in recognizing the 7 factors of awakening in your life.